Hello, welcome to ECO-595, Applied Business Research. In this video, we're going to go over Chapter 8 in the textbook, Secondary Data Research in the Digital Age. So basically, we're going to talk about a few sources for secondary data, which means the data are collected by a third party, not the researchers. And such data can be useful for business research. So first of all, as I mentioned, secondary data are data collected by someone else prior to and for a purpose other than the current bid project. Okay? Using secondary data, there are advantages that are not shared by first primary data, which means if the researcher collect data themselves, they are called primary data. And if the data are collected by someone else for a different purpose, they are called secondary data. The advantage would be such data available already because data are already collected for another purpose or another project or for general use. And such data are faster and less expensive than acquiring primary data, mainly because, again, it's already collected, it's available, and also usually for collecting primary data, we need to either do surveys, send out surveys to potential respondents, or collect data by observation, and these can be costly. Okay? And another advantage is secondary data do not require access to the subjects. That is, you do not need to contact the respondent yourself. It's already collected. It's inexpensive in the sense that the government collects tons of data for us, and they are free usually. For example, the labor statistic, the Department of Labor collects various statistics on variables related to the macroeconomics and the labor force. Secondary data may also provide information otherwise not accessible, and this is because sometimes data can be confidential or sensitive, and there might be a company or organization that specializes collecting data, and after collecting sensitive data, they could kind of modify the data to get rid of the sensitive part and only keep the part that can be made available to the public. Okay? Of course, there will be disadvantages using secondary data. For example, since the data are collected by someone else, it is usually not possible to verify whether the data is valid or not. And a lot of times, secondary data can have poor quality. The second disadvantage is since the data are not collected for the current project, instead it's collected for a different project, such data may not be consistent with the current needs. And usually researchers need to do some compromise or modify the data a little bit to serve the purpose. And another advantage is there might be inappropriate units of measurement, meaning that sometimes you may want to collect data at the household level, but data might be only available at the county level. And for such situations, the researcher either has to do the aggregation, has to do the research at the aggregated level, or the researcher has to collect data themselves. And secondary data can be too old because, again, they are collected already for a different project, and that project may have been carried out a year ago. Especially for macro data collected by the government, it do take time for them to collect the data, organize it, clean it, and make it publicly available. So such data can be quite old. Let me show you one example where secondary data can help with business research. And this is a situation where we are interested in the following questions. What firms are the market leaders in their industry? What matters when it comes to firm performance? Does customer satisfaction ultimately lead to superior firm performance? So these are general questions, and if a firm, say for example, wants to improve its performance and also wants to know what factors they need to pay attention, they could conduct surveys asking, they could conduct research asking these questions. And to answer such questions, you would need to have data actually for all the companies within the industry. And therefore, second data are the best choice. You can get second data from, for example, Nielsen database, CompuStat. That's a major business data set. The American Consumer Satisfaction Index, they do provide comprehensive data on various industry and individual companies. And sometimes for a particular industry, for a particular company, the company may not be able to access information about their competitors within the industry. So getting data from such databases is a good choice. And actually such research has been conducted. It turns out that services and value are the most important to consumers. And such research are carried out using second data, that is, data already collected. So typically, the objects for using second data can be slightly different from research using primary data. Typically, we use second data to do fact finding, that is, to kind of describe something. For example, we could identify consumer behavior for product category, and we could use inventory data to adjust prices. For example, if you have too much inventory, that means sales are not going well. You might want to consider adjust prices to increase the sales, because after all, the inventory also are costly to the firm. Okay. There's also trend analysis, which means the company wants to track the market, and maybe this is something that company always do. They do need to analyze the trends in industry, volume, and brand share over time to make sure the product they offer are the ones that are currently popular with the population, because people's view of popularity do change. And for example, recall that we had an example about Brahman paper towel, right? The way people used to think men at sexy is totally different from how we think right now. So a company definitely needs to make sure they are with the trends of the industry. And this is also, if you think about it, this is also some of the reasons why Nokia, BlackBerry are not doing so well these days. They are not staying with the trend of the industry. It could be also routine work for large consumer goods company. They need to, again, analyze the trend to make sure they are offering the product that consumers want. Restaurant, very important. Our taste change, and the food we prefer also change. I remember talking to someone saying that in the past, when you think about Asian food, there are a lot of Chinese food, but nowadays you can find more food from other Asian countries than Chinese food, right? You have more Indian restaurants now. You can have food from Vietnam or Thailand, for example. So as restaurants, they also need to make sure they know what consumers want, and they offer the service and food that consumers want. And lastly, second data can be useful to do environmental scanning. That is, the environment of the business changes all the time. Again, people's preference, people's taste always change. So you do want to keep an eye on any potentials. And here's an example just to show you how this would work. Makeup consumption in China. I remember like 20, 30 years ago, not a many people in China are using makeup. And at that time, if makeup production companies like Maybelline, if they are thinking about selling product to China, that may not be the good timing, because people in China did not appreciate the use of makeup, and also they always think that it destroys the skin. It does too much to the skin. But nowadays, China are changing. People there use makeup. I wouldn't say everybody, but the majority of people are using some kind of makeup. And therefore, it just indicates the environment is changing, people's perception are changing, people's opinion are changing. And also, China now more westernized. And therefore, people are open to ideas, concepts, and products from the Western countries. And therefore, it's important for companies to do this environmental scanning to see whether there's potential opportunity arises in a different country or a different market, different area. And whenever such opportunity arises, the company that first catches such opportunity will have advantage in comparison to other countries. And by the way, I do still remember the first commercial shown on Chinese television about makeup. It is from Maybelline, New York. And it's about, if I remember correctly, I think it's about lipsticks. So, and lastly, the secondary data can do model building. Although the model building talked about here may not be the theoretical model we talked about before. This model is more about doing some analysis about the market. So the textbook gives us a very example talking about how to calculate an index of retail saturation. And I'm sure you will learn this simple calculation in your other courses. So we're going to skip it. This just to show you we can use secondary data to do some calculation. Data mining, guess what? We're going to skip this because data mining is something closely related to big data thing. And there are more I can say about data mining than within this time frame. But basically, data mining is really meaning digging into data to find patterns or to find some information that can make business decisions. But then the data mining here means you're going to go through a huge volume of data. You dig through the data. So here's one quick example about data mining. That is, nowadays people are using social media all the time, like Facebook or Twitters, and those posts can also be regarded as data, and data mining can be useful to kind of summarize or get some information through different posts. So one company called Buzz Report does such things. They would search millions of blogs looking for messages related to particular products and trends. And this will inform companies the trend in the market. They would also be able to identify positive and negative messages based on a few keywords so that the company would know consumers' opinion about that service and product. And furthermore, they can even analyze word choices and spelling to estimate the writer's age, range, and sex. And this will enable the further analysis to say, what kind of people tend to be interested in this type of product. Examples, I want to mention this one, which I found this to be interesting, men diaper beers. This result actually also comes from analyzing data, although it's called data mining. It really means that researchers are analyzing point of sale transaction databases, okay? It's anonymous, so you wouldn't know who purchased the product, but you would know these products are purchased at this point together, things like that. So what they find are that when men go out and shop for diapers, they usually grab a few cans of beers on their way out. And this is found through analyzing transaction databases. They find coinciding purchases or relationship between the products purchased, and this will help those supermarkets to better organize their store. And actually, if you go to some stores, you might find that diapers are placed closer to the beers. And that is a result of the research conducted here. Okay. And there's one database we mentioned before. This is called the Consumer Relationship Management Database, the CRM database. And basically, this database will paint a whole picture of a consumer, especially when you sign up for the reward card, the reward program. You're gonna give your name, address, sometimes gender, phone number, email address, etc. You're gonna give it to the company for their databases. And based on the databases, the company would maintain a record of you with name, address, other information, as well as past purchases, because you're gonna use your reward card every time you make a purchase, right? And they will also send you offers, and they will be able to track whether you use the offer or not, and they would know whether you are responsive to the offers or discount or coupon or not. Okay, and this will help the company better manage their relationship between with the customers and better serve the customer. All right. Source of internal secondary data. I'm gonna skip this again. This is because this is from internal. Only if you work for the company, you're gonna have access to such information. But just in case you do one day need it, this includes accounting information. You can get data from accounting. You can also get data for sales information, back orders, consumer complaints, service records, warranty card returns, and other records. Okay, and it depends on the company. Some companies even maintain an intranet. That means only employees are able to access this network, and they will able to access information that's available in the network. Here's what I do want to let you know that about external secondary data source. Okay, so for the external secondary data, there are two main categories. One are free from the internet. The government, a lot of organizations do collect data and make it publicly free. There are also databases that are collected by a specialized company, and they sell the data for profit, and such data are also called secondary data. All right. If you're interested to know more about secondary data, you can take a look at page 173, and there's a long list of what secondary data is available on the internet. But for our purpose here, that's really all we need to know about this chapter. It's a short chapter just to give you some rough idea about secondary data. We didn't go through this chapter in very much details, and this is also how, if I test on this chapter, how you're going to be tested in the final. I will ask roughly about, say for example, I could ask about advantages or disadvantages of secondary data. I could ask about type of objects, what can you use with secondary data, okay? So just the major ideas for this chapter, that would be fun. All right, so that's all I can say about the chapter 8. I will see you next time.